What's up, cinephiles? I'm Evasive, and this piece of paper right here means two things. Number one, I am tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And number two, I know a lot about movies. And since it looks like the US government is not going to be giving me any debt relief this year, I have no choice now but to torture myself on the internet for money to pay off the loans I took out to go to film school. Ew. So for this video, I watched every movie that's ever won a Razzie Award for Worst Picture of the Year. This was an extremely painful experience, and I regretted my decision immediately. But for the sake of my adoring fans and my bank account, I went ahead and watched all 46 of these movies so I could explain them to you. But after the grueling experience of watching all these movies, I'm not about to tackle this breakdown alone. So I went ahead and roped in another video essay girly and a talking trash can to help explain some of these movies for me. But before I get to the movies, let me explain what the Razzies are. The Golden Raspberry Awards are an annual event usually held the night before the Oscars to give out awards for the worst movies of the year. It was founded by Hollywood copywriter John Wilson and editor Maureen Murphy. The idea for the Razzies came about in 1980 when Wilson saw Can't Stop the Music and Xanadu back to back and hated them both so much he thought there ought to be an award show for this type of thing. Months later, Wilson hosted an Oscars watch party at his house, and after the Oscars had finished, he and Murphy passed out ballots to everyone at the party to vote on the worst movies of the year, and then he announced the winners in his living room. Over time, the ceremony grew and grew, and today they're considered a staple of the Hollywood awards season. As a low-budget, bizarro world Oscars that distributes awards in categories such as Worst Actor, Worst Director, and Worst Screenplay. Unlike the qualifications for voting at the Oscars, though, becoming a Razzie voter is very easy. Either be friends with one of the producers, or just pay a $40 membership fee. That's all it takes. So that's the story of the Razzies. Now, are you ready to learn about every single movie that won Worst Picture? Because I wasn't. There's 46 of these things, so I'm going to talk about each one for just a minute or two and hand off a few to my guests so I don't completely lose my mind here. Also, I've put a content warning on a bunch of these movies because of the sensitive subject matter I discuss. Not trying to traumatize anybody but myself in this video. Well, me and my guests. But I commissioned them for this, so it's fine.
Anybody who can swallow 2 snowballs and a ding-dong shouldn't have any trouble with pride.
The first movie to win Worst Picture was Can't Stop the Music, a movie about the origins of the disco group Village People. And I say origins in air quotes because the Village People play themselves and the plot is completely made up and not at all how the Village People actually formed. The movie itself is super campy and full of these crazy musical numbers that are unironically kind of great. It's just too bad that in between those musical numbers are these scenes with really terrible acting that go on for way too long.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I am not taking one more step till I know where I'm going.
Right. Yeah, I quit my job and you got me walking the beat again. And I'm not even getting paid for it.
Hey, hold your horses. I told you I had a surprise for you.
I hope so. I turned in my coin changer at the toll booth.
It's not that awful of a movie, but by 1980, the disco fad was pretty much over and people loved to hate on disco music at the time, so you can see why this ended up being such a huge bomb. Also, shockingly, this movie marks the first film appearance of Caitlyn Jenner, and apparently the experience was so bad she didn't appear in a movie again until Jack and Jill in 2011. And, well... Mommy Dearest is a biopic about the life of famous actress Joan Crawford's adopted daughter, Christina. And again, I say biopic in air quotes because the movie was based on Christina Crawford's controversial memoir that other members of Joan Crawford's family disavowed when it came out. Now, I haven't done much research on the topic, so I'm in no position to question this story, but I will say that after the movie was made, Christina said the film was grotesque and not true to her memoir. Released just 4 years after Joan Crawford passed away, this movie basically spits all over her fresh grave and portrays her as a horrible mother who frequently physically and emotionally abused her daughter. Now, whether or not this is actually true is still a matter for debate, of course, but regardless of the real-life circumstances behind the movie, Faye Dunaway's performance of Joan Crawford is iconic now. People who have unfortunately experienced emotional abuse from a parent found her performance scarily true to their own life experiences, but general audiences just thought she was being outrageously campy and over the top the whole movie. movie. Because of its reputation, the film accidentally became a queer cult classic over the years, especially in the drag community, and it was even featured in the most recent season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
No more hangers!
No more wire hangers. No wire hangers. No.
Incheon is a movie about the Battle of Incheon in the Korean War. It was financed and produced by the Unification Church, a movement that was, and still is, considered a dangerous cult with a leader who called himself the Second Coming of Jesus Christ. The film's producer was a very wealthy member of the church who said he was instructed by God to make the film. So unsurprisingly, no investors wanted any part of this, and all $46 million of the budget ended up being provided by the church and its followers. The film itself doesn't really have much to do with the Unification Church. It's a straightforward war movie that's really just boring and unremarkable. It had some star power, but only because the actors in it were paid a lot of money, with Laurence Olivier even admitting before the movie was released that he was only in it for the money. It was such a flop that nobody even bothered to release it on home media, and the only available version of the movie today is from an old VHS rip from when it played on Unification Church TV channel. The only thing worth seeing in this movie is Laurence Olivier's makeup job. I mean, he looks like the Joker. This movie is just tasteless. It's based on a novel by Harold Robbins, who was paid $600,000 for the film rights and apparently fell asleep in the screening room and never actually watched the movie. First of all, in the first 15 minutes, young Ray Liotta, in his first ever movie role, sexually assaults the main character with a garden hose. And then after that, the rest of the movie is just her being forced to have sex with gross older men in order to get ahead in Hollywood, and you see all of it. It seems like it was trying to criticize sexism in Hollywood, but instead of handling it with any kind of nuance or respect, the movie fully shows the sex scenes and does the very thing it's trying to critique. The final scene in the movie shows her winning an Oscar for Best Screenplay and calling out the men who took advantage of her in her acceptance speech, and then she's booed off stage and leaves, and the movie just ends there. It's really uncomfortable to watch. But somehow the next movie is even worse. Ugh, God. Okay, so Bolero is a movie by John Derek. John Derek was an old Hollywood actor who appeared in supporting roles in several big movies in the 1940s and 50s. In 1973, when Derek was 47 years old, he traveled to Europe to direct a low-budget movie called Once Upon a Love, starring a 16-year-old girl named Mary Kathleen Collins. During the production... I'm so sorry. During the production, John Derek left his wife and groomed Mary Collins into a sexual relationship, with the two staying in Europe until she turned 18 so he could avoid statutory rape charges. And then when they got married a few years later, she changed her name to Bo Derek and proceeded to star in all of his movies until he died in 1998. I'm sorry. So anyway, Bolero is a movie about a young woman fresh from college who travels to Morocco and Spain to lose her virginity. And if that wasn't bad enough, this movie features a full frontal nudity scene with a 14-year-old girl. Not an actress playing a 14-year-old girl, an actual 14-year-old girl. If you've never seen any Rambo movies before, the image you probably associate with the word Rambo is the one where hyper-masculine Sylvester Stallone is firing a machine gun without a shirt on. But see, that's actually from this movie, Rambo First Blood Part 2, which has very little to do with Part 1 at all. The whole point of the first Rambo movie is that Rambo is a Vietnam War veteran with severe PTSD who snaps and kills a bunch of small-town cops who treat him like shit. The sequel, on the other hand, throws that tragic anti-war character out the window as the US government sends him back to Vietnam to locate prisoners of war, and Rambo is just like weirdly okay with that. It's like he immediately got over his PTSD and just got straight to blowing stuff up, no problem. This movie was a massive box office success and made double what the first movie made, so naturally Rambo 3 also ditched the anti-war angle and sent Rambo to Afghanistan. I don't know, as someone who thought the first movie was amazing, it really sucks to see how quickly they ruined this character, but like, I get it. The people who went to go see these sequels in theaters didn't watch it for the plot. They watched it so they could see Sylvester Stallone do this. In the early 80s, Prince was a rising star, and his stardom was cemented in 1984 with the massive hit that was Purple Rain. So after the success of Purple Rain, Warner Brothers told Prince he was basically allowed to do whatever he wanted for his next project, greenlighting Under the Cherry Moon without even reading the script. The story is, Prince plays a guy in the French Riviera named Christopher. He and his friend Tricky try to scam a rich girl out of her inheritance, but they both end up falling in love with her. Problems with the movie became apparent early on, when Prince hired someone with no experience to write the script. Then 16 days into filming, the director quit, and Prince took over even though he had no experience directing a movie before. The end result was a movie that features what I can only describe as, acting.
Don't try anything funny. Not this time, Christopher. I want the money, or I'll throw you both out onto the street.
That's right, Cotton. Give me that Bela Lugosi look. Throw me onto the street, huh?
It's bizarre. It's one of those movies where the acting is so bad it loops around to being funny, which has given the movie a bit of a cult following over the years. That and the soundtrack is amazing. Like with Purple Rain, Prince released an album with the movie that went platinum and is today remembered as one of the most iconic albums of his career. After Under the Cherry Moon failed, Prince tried one more time to direct a feature-length movie, but that one got nominated for a bunch of Razzies too, and after that he gave up and never tried to direct a movie again. Also, this year marks the first ever tie in Razzie's history, with Under the Cherry Moon tying with Howard the Duck.
Greetings, evasive viewers. It is I, YungJunko, expert in bird law, and I'm here to defend my client, Howard T. Duck, star of the Razzie's worst film of 1986, Howard the Duck. For nearly the last 40 years, my client's reputation has been tarnished and slandered against by quackpot chicken shit critics for this tragic box office bomb.
The central character, the duck, the one that we're going to be rooting for, have a rooting interest in, is he neither funny or bitter funny.
But I'm here to clear the air. Howard the Duck is not a movie, no. It's a documentary. I know this because I was there. We all were. My entire clan witnessed my client crash land on Earth to star in a motion picture, that of which it's still awful. It's bad. Yeah, we're not winning this case, buddy.
Huh, I wasn't trying anything, honest.
This is a strange movie, to say the least. Howard the Duck notoriously opens with 2 instances of full frontal duck booba in the span of 30 seconds. But the rest of the movie is this whiplash between what's a squeaky clean Full House type family movie that no one older than the age of 3 years old would find funny, followed by things like Marty McFly's mom showing off her ass and pulling out a condom for Howard's corkscrew. It's like Antimatter Shrek, where they didn't know how to mix adult humor in a kid's flick properly yet, so it all just becomes this overly long, bland comedy with hardly any intentional laughs that just happens to throw in something totally obscene every now and then.
I just can't resist your intense animal magnetism.
There's a lot of attempts at duck puns. Most are just replacing a random phrase in a word with duck.
That's it. No more Mr. Nice Duck.
Even the director's name is Willard Hyuk. That's a duck name. That's a name you give a duck. The first half of the movie has Howard pointlessly meandering. There's no funny interactions or observations or memorable bits. It's just an aimless movie with the guy in a duck suit. You have an entire portion of the movie where Howard has a job as a towel boy in like a sex club. It's fun for the whole family. You have breeders, what the hell? Bareback bestiality and pedophilia. Oh yeah, we find Howard getting launched to Earth as the result of a Quack Mesa incident, which also leads to Palpatine somehow returning from the dead and possessing the body of that one actor that's in every 80s movie who would later go on to be arrested for being a sex pervert.
What do you think he'd like to eat?
I no longer need human food.
I need little boy butts. You have a movie where a talking duck fires a giant laser at a hell portal to stop a horde of alien warlords from taking over the Earth, and they still somehow manage to make it a total snooze fest. They try to give Howard a bit of edge, but he still feels too kiddie and sanitized for what they're going for, and part of that's also his design. He looks like a cross of a Furby and McCulkin. There were some things I did like these alien overlords are pretty cool, their design and the stop motion's really well done, and the sequence where Howard gets shot up into space is pretty neat. Pretty impressive to look at. I like this sequence where Howard and Andy Dufresne get a 6-star wanted level and start flying away from all the cops. That was good. Yeah, Tim Robbins is in this. Imagine having what's considered one of the best movies of all time as part of your portfolio, and then on the other end of the spectrum having Howard the Duck. Now that's range. Genuinely, I was taken aback because some of the shots in this movie undeniably do go hard. I feel like there's a version of this movie that could have actually been good with less work. Like if they lean into Howard being the cynical, perverted, wisecracking duck that's down on his luck, who gets thrust into Earth and finds this strange new realm actually isn't so much different from his own, and then it's all about the bills, baby, put it on my bill. You have him take it as an opportunity for a fresh start, slowly climbing his way up the corporate ladder until becoming a national celebrity that gets caught up in 80s consumerism and greed, and then maybe have him begrudgingly get involved in some of the weird sci-fi fantasy stuff like the comics. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure how to defend my client. Give him the chair. Alright, I may not have been able to defend Howard, but know this. From this day forth, I will ensure every client of mine is proven innocent. Now, for my next client, I will be defending one Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. I'm good. Your Honor, I would draw, Your Honor. I'm good. We're done here. We're done. It's Leonard, Part 6. Ask anyone who's seen this movie and they'll tell you that's when they first knew Little Bill was a real piece of shit. I gotta say, when I first heard there was a comedy movie that just started on Part 6, I thought, hey, that's kind of funny. Maybe this movie could be bad in a good way at the very least. Nope. It's just bad. It's boring. It's so boring. If there's one thing Cosby was always a master at, it's making people very sleepy. The whole thing is supposed to be a spoof on the spy genre, sort of like Naked Gun, except it actually came out a year before that movie. They really just had the cameras roll and had Bill Cosby do whatever he wanted. There's a bunch of weird sex shit. I mean, the clues are all there. In the movie, his wife divorced him because he slept with a 19-year-old, and his daughter is dating a much older man to further her career as an actress. So then Leonard has to see her flash her tits on stage for no reason. No reason. None of these scenes add anything to the movie. I think Cosby just wanted to look at some young girl tits. The whole film has this weird lethargic and slow energy to it. Everything from the dialogue to the editing, it's like watching a movie at 0.5 speed. The movie opens with Leonard and an assassin having a little shootout in the kitchen, the joke being that what they're doing is actually helping prep some of the food. Okay, could be funny, but the pace of it all is so bizarrely off by a step. Every gag and bit is like this, like they took something that was maybe a 3 out of 10 joke at best and spread it so thin that you ask yourself, was there even a joke at all to begin with? The plot follows Leonard being the best agent in the world who has long been retired until being pulled back for one last mission after a bunch of animals under mind control start killing people. Yet again, a god-awful 80s comedy starts off with an animal looking at a porno mag. Here's your 2 fucking nickels. The entire first half is him stumbling around trying to get back with his ex-wife who pours soup on him. What is this gag? Is this a fetish, Mr. Cosby? You think this was genuinely funny?
So we haven't poured the soup on the soup with the boop with the scoop the boop.
Cosby doesn't have a single funny line or hook to his character. You can tell he's just putting zero effort into any of this. It's almost like he said, yeah, I'll do the movie, but I don't want to look too stupid. Don't make me look too stupid. Most of these so-called jokes are what the most boring, uptight person in the world would think being silly is. Oh, look what, oh wow, he's being a ballerina, so girly. Oh wow, he's doing a silly fitness tape. How could he subject himself to that? Oh wee. You know what I mean? It's like he thinks these things are so beneath him that just him doing it will be funny. What a piece of shit. You know what really makes me mad though? It's completely unfair, because everyone else seems to be trying but him. There's a part at the end where Leonard frees all the animals in captivity, and I just want to take this time to recognize this bird right here, who in this 5-second shot bends the bars of his cage with his beak and breaks free. God bless this bird. This bird right here put more effort than Bill Cosby in his own movie. This bird did not deserve to be in one of the worst movies of all time. None of these animals did. This ostrich didn't deserve to be portrayed with a sex criminal grinding his pudding pop on its back. You think about it, if audiences in 1987 hated this, watching it now with all the humor naturally diluted even further through the passage of time is like drinking a 40-year-old can of new Coke. And when Belle's the one handing you the drink, it's safe to say you probably shouldn't drink it.
Cocktail is a movie where young Tom Cruise plays a bartender in Manhattan, and then he moves to Jamaica and falls in love with a girl, but then he loses her and he moves back to New York to win her back, and that's pretty much it. What you see is what you get with this one. It's a really mediocre movie. Not that good, but not that bad either. Well, except for this scene where Tom Cruise stands on a bar and reads his shitty poetry. This is pretty cringy.
I see America drinking the fabulous cocktails I make. America's getting stinking on something I stir or shake. I make drinks so sweet and snazzy. The iced tea, the kamikaze. The sex on the beach. The schnapps made from peach. The velvet hammer. The Alabama slammer.
Unsurprisingly, with Tom Cruise starring, this movie was a massive success, earning a ridiculous $171 million on a $20 million budget. It's also the movie that the Beach Boys song Kokomo was written for, but yeah, besides that, not much to talk about here. I'm pretty sure it only won Worst Picture because this was the same year Rain Man was favored to win Best Picture, and the voters must have thought it would be funny to make both the Best and Worst Picture be Tom Cruise movies. Okay, so before making this video, I hadn't actually watched any Star Trek at all, but because I'm committed to my craft, I went ahead and watched all 6 of the original movies just so I could understand why this one is considered the worst. And after all that, I get it now. It's not a horrible movie, but especially compared to the previous film in the series, Star Trek V is pretty blah. Pretty much everything went wrong behind the scenes. William Shatner directed it with no prior directing experience. Nobody could agree on anything during the writing process. There was a writer's strike, then a Teamsters strike. They shot a lot of the movie in the Mojave Desert, which was just as miserable as it sounds. And after filming was done, they only had 3 months to make the special effects, and all the best effects technicians in Hollywood were busy working on Indiana Jones 3 and Ghostbusters 2 at the time. Do I think this movie deserved Worst Picture? No. It does some wacky things like introduce Spock's long-lost brother that he never mentioned before, or show Kirk getting mauled by a Catwoman, but overall I really don't think it's that bad. Though to be honest, I'm not a Trekkie who had to see Captain Kirk show up on the Enterprise in a Go Climb a Rock t-shirt, so... I mean, is that bad? I actually don't know. Can someone in the comments tell me if that's like if that's not in character? I actually don't know if I'm supposed to be mad at this or not. The Adventures of Ford Fairlane was a comedy starring Andrew Dice Clay. If you don't know who Andrew Dice Clay is, he was a comedian most active in the late 80s and early 90s who was known for his character The Dice Man, which was basically a cover for him to tell the most offensive jokes he possibly could.
And they're always on parade. They march up and down the street with t-shirts and flags. I want money for AIDS disease. Beautiful. I want money for a new fucking car. I ain't marching up and down the street. Get a job, butt slammer.
The movie itself is about a detective, I guess. I don't know, it's just not funny at all. Honestly, I kept going on my phone the whole time because I was just so bored.
I've got something serious to discuss.
Yeah, what is it? Premature ejaculation? Like that time we were at her parents' wedding anniversary and I told that joke. What's the definition of vagina? The box of penis comes in.
Gilbert Gottfried plays the only funny character in the movie, but he dies like 25 minutes in, and the rest is just a boring mess that's impossible to follow. The director, Rennie Harlin, was also working on Die Hard 2 at the time, which ended up coming out in theaters at the exact same time as Ford Fairlane. And when you look at the money comparison between the two movies, yeah, it's pretty obvious which movie he cared about more.
Clint Eastwood. I fucked them. Oh!
1990 was another tie, with Ford Fairlane tying with another movie from unapologetic file, John Derek. In this one, Bo Derek plays a woman married to a much older man, and when the older man dies, his ghost takes up residence in her head and goads her into murdering a man so he can possess his body and have sex with her again. It's a supernatural, dirty old man movie where John Derek fantasizes about living rent-free in Bo Derek's head after he dies. Plus, this ended up being his last movie. It would be poetic if it wasn't so disgusting.
Bo was very, very young. Linda was very young, not as young as Ursula and Bo. I guess I'd just meet them young before they're wise enough to know that I'm not the guy.
Anyway, the acting is bad, the story is bad, the visuals are bad, but the real cherry on top here is that this movie was the first film appearance of Donald Trump. No joke, Trump's first movie was made by a pedophile. He even does a little duck face in it, look at him. Poetic. Just watch this clip.
Happy sailing, horse! Oh, no! How am I driving? 1-800, I'm gonna die!
Bruce Willis plays a master burglar fresh out of prison who is blackmailed into stealing some art, but it turns out it's all part of a conspiracy to build a secret machine invented by Leonardo da Vinci that can turn lead into gold. At this point in his career, Bruce Willis was mainly known for Die Hard 1 and 2, and was looking to branch out a bit with Hudson Hawk, but apparently he couldn't decide what he wanted the movie to be. In an interview, one of the writers later said, "I started to know we were in trouble when Joel and Bruce would say during filming, 'You know what this is? This is a Pink Panther movie.' The next day they'd say, 'You know what this is? This is an American James Bond movie.' Then it would be, 'You know what this is? This is North by Northwest.' I even remember someone saying, 'You know what this is? This is Casino Royale.' Eventually I realized that if every day they were saying it was something different, by the time we got to the editing room, we were going to be in trouble." So yeah, the final product is all over the place, but the movie has developed a bit of a cult following over the years just because it's so silly.
Bunny! Bubble!
Here's another movie that's really not that bad. It's a World War II spy movie where Melanie Griffith is a half-Jewish woman with no spy experience who signs herself up to become a spy in Berlin because she wants to prove herself and save her Jewish cousins who are in hiding. Michael Douglas plays another spy, and pre-Schindler's List, Liam Neeson plays a Nazi officer. Most of the complaints about the movie were aimed at how unbelievable Melanie Griffith is as a spy because she's really bad at her job, like spilling soup on Liam Neeson and taking the German kid she's nannying to the building her cousins are hiding in kind of bad. But overall, it's not that awful of a movie because the plot holes and writing problems are balanced out by a good soundtrack and good cinematography. It's just average, not bad enough to be memorable, but not good enough that you ever want to watch it again. Basically the cinematic equivalent of eating at Denny's. I think 1992 was just a slow year for bad movies in general. That same year, they also nominated Newsies for Worst Picture and Danny DeVito for Worst Supporting Actor. Like, what? Why? How? What? Once again, this is a movie that's not that bad. It's a drama where Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore play a financially struggling married couple in Vegas, and Robert Redford is a filthy rich guy who offers the couple $1 million for a one-night stand with Demi Moore. Honestly, it's fine. It takes itself very seriously and it's vaguely misogynistic at points. Also, it's completely unbelievable that a man who looks like Robert Redford would ever feel the need to pay $1 million to sleep with someone. But in the context of the movie, it all works. Definitely not the worst movie of the year, that's for sure. I mean, you're telling me that Indecent Proposal won Worst Picture, but Mr. Nanny wasn't even nominated? Razzie voters were asleep at the wheel this year. In this one, Bruce Willis plays a psychologist who can't see the color red that gets wrapped up in a murder mystery after his colleague is killed Assassin's Creed style and he suspects it was someone in his therapy group. I'm so confused why this was even nominated for Worst Picture because it really isn't a bad movie at all. It's surreal and weird, sure, but in a Twin Peaks type of way where it's still unsettling and fun to watch. Definitely a 6.5 out of 10 movie for me. maybe a 7 out of 10, I don't know. This is another one that became a cult hit after it was released on home video, partly because of this crazy sex scene in a pool that everybody wanted to see. It was even streaming on Criterion Channel at one point, which basically means that it's certified art. That's all I have to say. I don't know, guys, some of these 90s movies just aren't bad enough to even complain about. There's a lot to be said about Showgirls. First of all, director Paul Verhoeven was the first to accept his Razzie Award in person, and that's kind of funny.
And I'm very happy because it was much better, much more fun than reading the reviews in September. Thank you so much.
Second of all, Showgirls isn't bad. It's actually a great movie in my opinion, and a lot of people agree. It is a wild movie about the world of high-budget Las Vegas strip shows, and obviously with subject matter like that, you're going to view the movie very differently depending on your gender and sexuality, but regardless of what kind of person you are, the experience of watching this movie is an absolute roller coaster. But for as over-the-top as this movie is, it's also pretty true to life. During his research, writer Joe Esterhazy interviewed over 200 strippers in Las Vegas, and the result was a shockingly straightforward depiction of the lives of high-profile sex workers and performers, and a biting satire against show business in general.
Take a look at these tits. What are these, watermelons? This is a stage, babe. It's not a patch. See ya. Your ears are sticking out. They are. Come back and see me when you get them fixed. See ya. Can you spell MGM backwards? I bet you can't.
MGM.
I'm impressed. Come back when you fuck some of this baby fat off.
Now in today's era of gritty HBO dramas, none of this is that shocking, but in 1995, this was next level stuff. Plus with the subject matter, this movie has a lot of nudity. It was rated NC-17 in America, and to date, it is the only NC-17 movie ever given a wide release in theaters. It was so explicit and controversial that MGM had to hire security at every movie theater in America just to make sure nobody under the age of 18 snuck into the theater. The movie lost millions of dollars, and to this day, no studio has ever dared to try and release an NC-17 movie in theaters again. If this sounds interesting to you, I actually really recommend giving this movie a watch because I can't really do it justice with just words alone. Just know what you're getting into before you turn it on, because this movie is every bit as traumatic as it is glamorous. This movie is like if Showgirls was actually bad. Demi Moore plays an FBI agent who loses her daughter in a custody battle and becomes a stripper in Florida at a place called the Eager Beaver to pay for a court appeal. She basically girl bosses being a stripper. Not in a nuanced way like Showgirls though, but in a stupid way that takes itself too seriously and is mostly just boring and not believable at all. Despite the bad reviews, the movie ended up being a huge success, and the director, writer, producer Andrew Bergman basically quit Hollywood after this movie. I'm pretty sure what happened is once he got Demi Moore to agree to go topless, he just phoned in the rest of the movie because clearly the audiences who went to see this weren't watching it for the plot. The Postman takes place in the distant future year of 2013, after much of humanity has been wiped out by a plague. Kevin Costner, who also directed the movie, stars as a traveling Shakespeare performer who gets conscripted to Caesar's Legion, but he escapes and finds an old mail bag full of mail and pretends to be a mailman so he can get food and accidentally restarts the US Postal Service in the process. Also, it's almost 3 hours long. Honestly, as far as post-apocalyptic adventures go, this one isn't that bad. It's about the same level of quality as Waterworld actually, but the fact that it was a 3-hour long Kevin Costner vanity project released just a week after Titanic made it a very easy target for critics. What is Kevin Costner up to these days anyway? Kevin Costner. I mean, hey, good luck, Kevin. If you aren't familiar, the name Alan Smithy is a fake name that the Directors Guild of America came up with in 1968 that directors who wanted to take their name off a movie were required to use instead. And this movie caused such a headache that the Directors Guild had to officially stop allowing the use of the Alan Smithy name in movies. Okay, so this movie was written by Joe Esterhazy and directed by Arthur Hiller. It's a mockumentary about a guy whose name is actually Alan Smithy who directs an action movie, but he hates the finished product, so he steals the film reels and holds them ransom because he wasn't allowed to take his name off it. Now, behind the scenes in real life, Joe Esterhazy was in charge of cutting Burn Hollywood Burn, and when Arthur Hiller saw the final version, he hated it so much he had his name taken off the movie. But this of course created confusion because this is a movie about Alan Smithy, and the poster said it was directed by Alan Smithy, which you would assume was just a joke, but no, the director actually had his name taken off the movie. It would take me so long to explain everything that's wrong with this movie, so let me just sum it up in 4 words. There's way too many characters, the movie jumps all over the place, Harvey Weinstein is in it. There's lots of not funny parts where the camera freeze frames and there's a wall of text on screen. I'm guessing what happened is they filmed all these scenes separately and thought they were hilarious on set, but when they got to the editing room, they realized they had nothing to work with, so Joe Esterhazy tried to salvage it by adding a bunch of text edit jokes, which actually made the movie worse. I have no proof of this, of course, but it seems right to me. I mean, I'd probably do the same thing in that situation. Okay, so this is a Western steampunk fusion movie starring the Fresh Prince and the guy who plays Mr. Fischoeder in Bob's Burgers as cowboy government agents hunting down an evil ex-Confederate officer with no legs who kidnaps President Ulysses S. Grant with a giant robot spider. That's what this movie is. This movie is ridiculous. I don't know what the executives at Warner Brothers were snorting in the boardroom when they decided to spend over $170 million on a movie where cowboy Will Smith fights a huge mecha spider, but thank God they did, because Will Smith turned down playing Neo in The Matrix to do this movie, and I want you to imagine now what it would be like if Will Smith played Neo in The Matrix.
I probably would have messed The Matrix up. I would have ruined it. So I did Jaw a favor.
This might not be a good movie, but oh my god, it's so funny. Plus the theme song is pretty fire.
If I may quote one of the great gangster rappers, William Will Smith, wiki wild wild, wiki wild, wiki wild, wiki wild, wild wild west, wiki wild, wiki wild wild west. Do you find those lyrics inspiring?
I mean,
Battlefield Earth is an action sci-fi movie based on a novel written by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, which he wrote in 1982 when he was in hiding to avoid going to prison for his numerous crimes. It's about a distant future world where humanity has been enslaved by evil aliens called the Cyclos, which are a very obvious metaphor for L. Ron Hubbard's vitriolic hate of psychiatrists. John Travolta, who plays the evil alien leader named Turl and has been a Scientologist since 1975, is directly responsible for this movie existing. The production company that took it on was later found to have defrauded investors out of $31 million by over-reporting production costs, causing a lawsuit that forced the company to go bankrupt and shut down in 2007. On top of that, the movie was a massive financial flop, not just because the movie and its John Travolta action figures were an obvious Scientology recruitment tactic, but because the movie itself was a visual nightmare. The special effects are ugly, the costumes are disgusting, and the whole movie was filmed with these crooked angles that change multiple times a scene, which gave a bunch of people motion sickness. It's a really infamously bad movie that's been covered by dozens of other YouTube channels over the years, so if you want more information on it, go watch one of those videos. Just don't watch the movie itself, because it'll do nothing but make you nauseous and waste 2 hours of your time. I'm serious, you guys, don't do it. I'm sorry, you guys. Conflict of interest, I can't talk about Freddy Got Fingered. One of my friends and I watched this movie like 4 times during quarantine and we kind of bonded over it, and now this movie has a special place in my heart. Aww. So I made Nikki watch it instead because she's never seen it before, and here she is now.
Where the hell do I even begin with this movie? Part of me thinks this movie is some kind of deep anti-comedy meant to satirize the other gross out comedies that were popular in the early 2000s. And the other part of me thinks that maybe it means nothing at all. I mean, any normal human being will read a title like Freddy Got Fingered and run away in the opposite direction. Because what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Freddy Got Fingered.
But to put it simply, this movie is about a 28-year-old man.
Stop it, Mom. I'm a 28-year-old man. I'm a 28-year-old man.
His name is Gord, and he moves to LA to be a cheese worker, and also to pursue his dreams of being a professional animator. Seems pretty simple, right? Seems pretty cut and dry. But that's where you'd be wrong, because so very many things happen in this movie that are beyond human explanation. Just to name a few, Tom Green jerks off a horse. He swings a baby around by its umbilical cord. Tom Green walks around in a deer carcass. And he goes scuba diving in his own toilet.
Get out of the toilet! Get out of the toilet!
But at the risk of sounding clinically insane and demented, there are moments in this movie that I find kind of relatable. Like this one, where the CEO of an animation company tells Gord that he doesn't like his drawings.
It sucks.
And so he immediately sticks a gun in his mouth and starts screaming.
The characters are lame. I'm a loser. I wish I was dead. Oh! Wait.
And what makes this even funnier is the fact that once he receives validation, he takes the gun out of his mouth and acts like none of that ever happened at all.
Sir, I can't work on this all day. I got a job at the cheese sandwich factory.
If you're mentally ill and make art, this is the film for you.
It's time I grow up and get a job and do something with my life instead of acting like a little baby all the time. I can't think of anything to draw because I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid.
And this movie surprised me in so many different ways. For one, it made me laugh way more than I anticipated.
Can't you see we're both just a couple of stupid idiots? Gordy!
And it was also like weirdly based at times. And I say weirdly because the early 2000s was just like a derogatory fever dream. It was like running through the perfume department in SpongeBob, but the perfume was slurs. So like Gord ends up asking out this nurse named Betty, and she says yes, but afterwards he finds out that she's in a wheelchair. And at first I was like, oh shit, like it's about to get really ableist in here. I was truly prepared for the worst, but my expectations were completely subverted when Betty ended up not only being the smartest person in this whole movie, but her and Gord remain in a relationship for the rest of the film.
I have a bag of jewels for you. What? They're jewels, Betty. They're jewels.
Another interesting thing to me is that Betty constantly wants to give Gord a blowjob. Hear me out, dude. Like, she actually asks him this so many times in the movie that it comes off as very obviously satirical.
I don't care about jewels. I just wanna suck your cock.
My life's a little hectic lately. I'm having trouble concentrating with all the skateboarding and you sucking my penis all the time.
And again, my expectations were subverted by Gord being the one that repeatedly asks if they can just go out on a date.
And I just think that if we went out on at least one date, and you didn't do any sucking right now, that'd make the whole sucking to date ratio far more balanced, you know?
This could be a play on the trope of male protagonists in comedy especially, being obsessed with sex. And not only that, but women being ultra sexualized in these movies. Not all the subversion in this movie is good though, necessarily. I mean, if you were wondering how the movie got its title, I shit you not, about 50 minutes into the film, Gord frames his dad for fingering his brother.
Well, at least I don't touch Freddy. He fingers him.
His brother who is like 25 and doesn't even live with them.
He's a molester. He's a child molester!
But CPS literally goes to his apartment and takes him to the molestation hospital. Is this shocking? Yes. I don't know if it's shocking compared to the other things that happened in this movie. Is it in poor taste? Like, maybe. But anyways, this whole framing of the fingering is the canon event that leads to the finale of the film, when Gord pranks his dad by abducting him in the middle of the night and taking him to Pakistan.
You're fucking dead.
They could write books and novels and college theses about everything else that happens in between then and the ending, but just know that this movie ends with Gord and his dad being covered in elephant. Speaking of which, there's an elephant in this room, and the elephant is that I actually kinda like this movie. Also, the elephant is coming. Is that so wrong? And is it so wrong that maybe kinda I might be attracted to Tom Green in this movie? Is it maybe okay if I think he might be the Pete Davidson of the 90s? You know what? Shut up. As far as career-ruining films go, Tom Green took the failure of Freddy very, very well. He even showed up to accept his Golden Razzie. He rolled out his own red carpet too.
Okay, hold on, you guys. You guys, give me some space. Here, can you grab that on the end?
Thank you very much.
Celebrate your successes and your failures.
A remake of an Italian film from 1974, Swept Away is a movie where Madonna plays the dumbest, most unlikable rich woman in the world who gets marooned on an island with an Italian sailor who hates her and sexually assaults her. And then 3 minutes after that, there's a time skip and suddenly they're in love. It's a nasty, nasty, nasty movie and I don't even want to talk about it. It was so bad, it caused Madonna to give up on acting entirely. It's a disaster. Absolute agony to watch, especially when you consider that the movie was directed by Madonna's then husband, Guy Ritchie. Madonna later divorced Guy Ritchie in 2008, but in my opinion, Queen should have divorced Guy Ritchie on the spot for even suggesting this movie.
Ugh. It was rough. There's nothing glamorous about it, and you were really mean to me.
Mrs. Ritchie.
I just want to slap you on camera.
But why, Mrs. Ritchie?
But all those times you let Adriano slap me, and you never yelled cut.
One more.
And all those times they threw octopuses on me, and all those times you made me stay in the freezing cold ice water, and those times you made me run down the sand dune, and those times you ate my food, and you didn't pay me, and you never said thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, I was riding the high of actually enjoying Freddy Got Fingered when Geely came in and literally snuffed the life out of me. Geely is a movie. It's about a mobster named Geely, played by Benjamin Benny Boy Affleck. And much like this review on Letterboxd, I too hope Geely himself. Because not only does he abduct a mentally challenged teenager and abuse him while holding him for ransom.
Normal! How about if I smack you in the fucking head?
He's also just cringe. Unforgivably so. J-Lo is also in this movie, unfortunately, and she plays this other mobster or mobsterette who is supposed to help him take care of this mentally disabled kid, and she also just happens to be a lesbian.
Means I'm a lesbian.
Or should I say, the least convincing lesbian in film history. No lesbians were consulted in the making of this movie, because what the fuck is this?
It's turkey time.
Huh?
Gobble, gobble.
You may not be able to tell because this is the weirdest way I've ever heard anyone describe it, but she's talking about eating here. I really don't know who told J-Lo or whoever wrote the script that lesbians call that turkey time, but whoever it was deserves to be taken out behind a barn and shot. Anyways though, of course Geely doesn't respect her sexuality.
Your girlfriends, they're at a natural disadvantage. It's like they might try hard, but they're just not backed up. Millions of years of genetic engineering.
And he whines and complains throughout the whole movie about, oh, it's not fair that she's like a lesbian, but I'm attracted to her and I want to be with her.
You know why I'm fucking sad?
because I got this fucking beautiful, sexy, gorgeous, heartthrob-a-rama, fucking smart, amazing, bombshell, 17 on a fucking 10 scale girl sleeping in a bed right next to me. She's a stone cold duck. A fucking untouchable, uninhabitable, unattainable brick wall fucking Stegosaurus Rex.
And after enough complaining, Ricky starts doing deeds with him. And it's not like this is realistic at all in any way, but in the hypothetical scenario where for some reason a lesbian had sex with a guy, it would not be with this guy. He's always like licking his teeth and shit. But luckily, there's not just lesbian cringe.
This ain't fucking lesbian talk circle time.
There's also plenty of heterosexual cringe.
God bless your penis.
And gay cringe.
I'm not gay.
And despite this movie literally being about mobsters, nothing mobster related really happens in this movie until like the last 30 minutes, where for some reason Al Pacino is here.
You piece of shit!
I'm sure this is Al Pacino's favorite role of all time, right up there next to Jack and Jill.
Okay. Come on, no better here, picture. No better. We got him.
Ho! Ho!
But to give it to you straight, the movie ends with Geely leaving the mentally disabled kid on a random beach with a cast of Baywatch. And it's literally played out like it's supposed to be like this inspirational thing, like a tearjerker or something. Meanwhile, Julie and Ricky ride off into the sunset, just as she's telling him that he should wear some makeup.
You know, I bet you'd look awesome in some mascara.
Do not watch this movie. You will get a UTI, or that other thing.
Okay, first of all, this movie is Catwoman in name only. Despite being a DC Comics movie, the Catwoman in this movie has pretty much nothing to do with the Catwoman from Batman. This character has a different name, lives in a different city, and gets her cat's superpowers from a magic cat burping in her mouth. It's just so stupid. It's actually really fun to watch, especially the CGI Halle Berry during the action scenes. It's so funny. As you might expect, this movie bombed hard, probably because they put it out in theaters around the same time as Spider-Man 2. It's a pretty infamous superhero movie now, and the director Pitoff was basically laughed out of Hollywood and never directed a movie again. But Halle Berry embraced this movie was a flop, and she even showed up in person to accept her Razzie Award.
First of all, I want to thank Warner Brothers. Thank you for putting me in a piece of shit, god-awful movie.
Dirty Love is a comedy created by Melissa McCarthy's cousin, notorious anti-vaxxer and masked singer judge Jenny McCarthy. She stars as a woman who gets dumped by her boyfriend and her life falls apart. It's really unhinged, but not in a funny kind of way. More of a I'm bored and uncomfortable and I want to leave the room kind of way. I actually had a hard time finding clips from this movie online because it's pretty obscure and nobody likes it. It's mostly badly delivered jokes and gross out humor with a feminine spin. And by feminine spin, I of course mean period jokes, like this scene where a bleeding Jenny McCarthy goes to the grocery store in a white skirt and no underwear and almost bleeds out on the floor. You know, relatable comedy for women. Just girly things. Hashtag just girly things. Just girly things. It's a girly thing, so you wouldn't understand, boys. It's a girly thing. Hashtag just girly things. It's a girly thing. It's a girly thing. Hashtag just girly things. So, this is a sequel to Basic Instinct, an erotic murder mystery thriller from the early 90s that's maybe best remembered today for the scene where Newman from Seinfeld sees Sharon Stone's bare, uncensored pussy in an interrogation room. The original was nominated for a few Razzies in its day, but it was a massive box office hit and is today remembered as a pretty solid neo-noir thriller. Now, Basic Instinct 2, on the other hand, only exists because Sharon Stone was promised $14 million to star in the movie, and when the producers tried to cancel it, she sued them to force them to make it.
Don't take it so hard. Even Oedipus didn't see his mother coming.
It's kind of hard to talk about this movie without spoiling a bit of the original, but I will say that overall I didn't hate this movie, but I also barely remember anything about the plot and I only saw it a couple months ago. It rehashes a lot of the same story beats and plot points as the original, just not as good. Would I call it a terrible movie? No, not really, but compared to the original, it's pretty bland and forgettable. But that's what happens when your only reason for making a movie is to avoid a massive lawsuit. Gotta love showbiz, baby! I Know Who Killed Me is a horror movie starring Lindsay Lohan as a girl who is kidnapped by a serial killer but survives and wakes up in the hospital saying she's someone else. This movie was released on July 27th, 2007, right at the peak of the tabloid frenzy about Lindsay Lohan and her struggles with alcohol and drug addiction. There was a lot of attention on the movie while it was filming, especially because Lohan checked into rehab for the first time a month into production. The film set was so swarmed with paparazzi that some of them even showed up in the background of a few shots in the movie. Then a couple months after filming wrapped, Lohan was arrested for drunk driving. Then on July 24th, just 3 days before the movie was released, Lohan was arrested for drunk driving again and couldn't even attend the premiere. All of this negative media attention made Lindsay Lohan enemy number one in Hollywood. Critics eviscerated this movie, but in the years since its release, this film has become a bit of a cult classic with horror movie fans, and it's been screened in theaters many times over the last decade. I've seen a lot of people online compare it to giallo movies, an Italian film genre popular in the 60s and 70s that mixed elements of murder mysteries, slashers, and erotica. The influence of giallo is definitely present here. It's a stylish, weird thriller, and Lohan's background made her kind of perfect for the role as the main character quickly transforms from a sweet high school girl into a deeply traumatized woman with a robotic hand. It's definitely not for everyone, myself included, but if you're into weird, gory horror movies, there's a lot to vibe with here. It's a much better movie than Norbit, that's for sure. I mean, have you ever seen Norbit? The Love Guru is a movie written by, produced by, and starring Mike Myers that's mostly remembered today as the movie that completely tanked his career and caused him to step away from Hollywood for 8 years. Critics and audiences both hated it, with critics calling it lazy, immature, mindless, pitiable, insulting, painful, gross, contemptuous, racist, and unlikable, among many other things. But don't take their word for it. Take my word for it. I don't really have any other words for it that pretty much sums it up. Anyway, here's the scene they used in the trailer.
Oh! How did you get there? This little guy scared the crap out of me. Think I'm gonna have to do a panty check. I might have some monkey mustard back there.
Who is this prick?
Shh. Well, how do you do? Shrimp?
What'd you call me, Jagamo?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. You are a midget.
So the plot of this movie is Mike Myers plays a self-help guru named Maurice Pitka, who was raised in India, wears a chastity belt, and dreams of being on Oprah. He's hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs to help their star player get back together with his wife because he is the love guru and therefore only he can save their marriage. It's basically a one-note movie that feels like it was written by a 10-year-old boy. Every scene goes on for way too long. Mike Myers keeps laughing at his own jokes, and pretty much every line is about poop, pee, farts, balls, or dicks, with many of the characters' names being dick jokes. We got Tuggin' Maputa, Coach Jerk Off, Lick Cock, Dick Pan. It's not funny that John Oliver is named Dick Pan. It's not. Okay, I'll be the first to say that I don't think any of the Transformers movies are particularly good. That being said, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is definitely the worst one, if only for how offensive and annoying it is. Pretty much every Transformer introduced in this movie either talks with a racist accent or the most annoying cartoon voice imaginable. And when it isn't being annoying or racist, it's doing shit like this.
Name's Wheelie. Yeah. Say my name. Say my name.
What are you allowing to happen to your foot just now?
At least he's faithful, Sam.
Yeah, well, he's faithful and he's nude and he's perverted.
Like, is it any wonder Megan Fox quit the series after this? Sadly though, this movie ended up making $836 million, which was about $100 million more than Up made that same year.
This nigga's gonna give me a heart attack, I swear.
That's because you
You guys forced me into that car, right? So.
Oh, I think he's scared.
Hey, Mudflap, what are we gonna do with this shrimp taco?
No, just bump a cap in his ass, throw him in the truck, and then nobody gonna know nothing, not me.
Not in my trunk.
No one's popping any caps in any asses, okay? I've had a hell
Why don't you get a haircut with your bitch ass?
What can I even say about this movie that hasn't been said 1,000 times already? This live-action trash fire, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, attempted to condense the first season of an amazing animated TV show into a 90-minute CGI-filled mess. Maybe if you watched this having never seen the original series, you'd see it as just another lame Hollywood fantasy action movie, but for fans of the series, this was offensively bad. The creators of the show were not allowed to give any input on the movie's development. Beloved characters were made one-dimensional and pointless. Major plot points were skipped over. Characters' names are pronounced wrong. Like, how do you even screw that up? This movie made a lot of money, but it was so hated by audiences that Paramount must have known they couldn't fool people twice and canceled plans to adapt the other 2 seasons, effectively sinking the career of the kid who played Aang before it even began. It's just sad. The whole movie is a sad waste of source material. You'd probably have a better time playing the official Last Airbender Wii game than you would watching this movie. Okay, maybe not. Alright, Razzies, respectfully, what the fuck? Listen, I wouldn't call myself a Twilight fan. I've never read the books, and I didn't watch the movies until recently, but even I know that the last movie in the Twilight series isn't that bad a movie. It's ridiculous, sure, but out of all the movies in the series, it's definitely the most exciting and most interesting entry aside from the first one. Obviously, they gave it Worst Picture as a sort of dig at the entire series, since none of the others had won Worst Picture before, but come on. Breaking Dawn Part 2 is fun. It's got a big fight scene on a frozen lake. It's got a girl named Renesmee. It concludes one of the most iconic and stupid blockbuster movie series of all time. It's so entertaining and over the top that even if you hate Twilight and everything about it, you can't tell me that this movie is worse than the Adam Sandler movie where he shows a 13-year-old impregnating his teacher. You can't tell me that. Because you'd be wrong. Let me start this one off by showing you a list of people who were involved in this movie. And that's not even all of them. Movie 43 is a compilation of raunchy comedy sketches, each directed by different people. Made on an impossibly cheap budget of $6 million, this thing took 3 whole years to film because the producers worked around actors' schedules to maximize how many famous people could show up in this. The sketches themselves are a relentless onslaught of dirty shock humor. There's one where Hugh Jackman has balls on his face. There's one where Chloe Grace Moretz smears period blood on the wall. There's one where a horny cat pisses on Elizabeth Banks. There's one where Kieran Culkin says he wants to leave a hickey on Emma Stone's vagina. My personal favorite was the one where Anna Faris asked Chris Pratt to poop on her during sex, so he takes some poop Viagra and then gets hit by a car.
I love you. I want to marry you.
Oh my God, Doug, no!
If you're feeling sadistic, throw this on at your next bad movie night with friends. It's got a little something for everyone.
I don't know what the hell movie 43 even means, but I'm in movie 43. Maybe they'll be a movie 44. I don't know.
So, if you're unfamiliar, Kirk Cameron was a child actor in the 80s who took a hard right turn into evangelical Christianity and has since appeared almost exclusively in low-budget Christian movies and radio programs. Today, he's mostly known for his inflammatory publicity stunts, like in 2020 when he organized maskless Christmas caroling events in LA to protest COVID restrictions, which he called communism disguised as public health. You know the type. He's a nutcase, and his movie has been dunked on 100 times by YouTubers already because for a while this was the lowest lowest rated movie on IMDb, with an average rating of 1.3 out of 10, which he claimed was the result of an atheist conspiracy on Reddit. Basically, the whole movie takes place in one house, and almost every scene is him using weird circular reasoning to explain how non-Christian Christmas traditions have actually been Christian all along, like how Christmas trees were God's idea because God created trees, or how the holiday isn't actually materialistic because the ability to buy gifts is God's gift to humanity. It's just boring. It's a very boring movie where nothing happens and everyone is just sitting or standing around not doing anything. The only remotely entertaining part of the whole movie is when all the extras have an epic dance party at the end.
Angels we have burned on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strain.
Fan Four Stick is a classic case of too many people having their hands on the same movie. The writers disagreed on everything. The director, Josh Trank, slept with a loaded gun on him because he got death threats for casting Michael B. Jordan. Fox executives had whole scenes cut out and other scenes reshot without Trank's approval because they thought his version was too dark. Trank also put out a tweet right before the movie came out, basically disowning it. The end result of all of this was an ugly, boring mess of a movie where there's no real stakes or tension anywhere. They don't even become superheroes until halfway through the movie, and most of the time they're just standing around talking and not doing anything. You can see the remnants of a decent movie in here, like in the scene where Miles Teller wakes up on a hospital bed looking like Lanky Kong, but we'll never know what the movie was supposed to be because nobody cares. There's nobody out there saying hashtag release the Trank cut.
I want them to go see just a really, really great movie, something that is different from Doctor Doom is the top 5 greatest characters to ever come off of a comic book panel. Science is really cool, and this is something that I think hopefully
So 2015 was another tie, with 50 Shades of Grey also being awarded Worst Picture. This is another movie where I'm like, what can I possibly say about this that hasn't been said already? It's based on an erotic novel that started out as a Twilight fan fiction. The stars have no chemistry and nothing about their relationship is believable. The movie spawned that Love Me Like You Do song that has haunted retail workers for almost a decade now. It's just a bad movie. It's boring and bad, and it made over $500 million. So rather than repeat the same things 100 other YouTubers have said, I'll just leave you with a little mental image. See, this movie came out on Valentine's Day 2015. I want you to imagine for a second all the thousands of couples who went to see this on Valentine's Day. I want you to visualize Kaylin and Greg from Sugar Land, Texas, who went to see this at the local AMC on Valentine's Day. I want you to visualize Kaylin giving Greg a dry hand job in the back of the theater 40 minutes into the movie. I want you to visualize them going to Applebee's after to eat a slightly burnt chicken breast and some unseasoned broccoli. I want you to visualize... If you don't know already, Dinesh D'Souza is a far-right political commentator who has been releasing propaganda films every year since 2012. He also pleaded guilty to campaign finance fraud in 2014 and was sentenced to 5 years probation, during which he made Hillary's America: The Secret History of the Democratic Party. Released in the summer of 2016, Hillary's America is a movie that claims it's a documentary, but aside from a few news clips and scripted-sounding interviews, much of the movie is either historical reenactments or D'Souza talking to terrible actors and trying to pass it off as documentary footage. The movie opens with D'Souza being sentenced for fraud, which he claims was a Democrat conspiracy to shut him up, and from there he goes to prison and starts interviewing other prisoners about how gangs work.
You know, gangs are all about stealing, man.
What's the biggest gang?
Right in your face. Politicians, man.
How does the gang make money?
Any way they can, you know? trafficking, smuggling, stealing, extortion.
Yeah, but how do they pull it off?
Later on, he visits the Democrat National Headquarters, and it's all done up to look like a high-tech museum to the glory of the Democratic Party. And then he sneaks into the restricted part of the building and breaks into the secret archives to reveal this secret information that is literally just in the curriculum in 8th grade US history. Like, hey guys, did you know that most of the slave owners in the Civil War were Democrats? Wow, isn't that crazy? How come nobody's talking about this? The sad truth is this movie sold $13 million worth of tickets when it came out, which means that hundreds of thousands of very gullible Americans saw this in theaters, and many probably dragged their impressionable kids to see it with them when all those kids wanted to do was play the new Pokemon Go game that just came out. It's depressing to think about. 2016 was a very dark time.
But I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I can't talk about the Emoji Movie. You see, on a hot summer day in 2017, I actually saw the Emoji Movie in theaters in a room full of screaming, sugared up children. And if you think this movie looks bad enough on its own, try watching it completely sober while a 7-year-old kicks the back of your chair the whole time. I just can't relive the trauma of that day again, so I pass this one off to the trash guy.
YungJunko. He was the best lawyer who ever lived. But decidingly, the hammer of justice made him his walnut, and under the pressure he cracked. And by his side he had only left this note. Sad face, cry face, trash can, water gun, squirt, squirt, sad face. Watch Emoji Movie in theaters July 28, 2017 for more info.
Emoji Movie is like the cinematic equivalent of seeing an ad for Cricket Wireless on the side of a bus. It's the same artistic merit. It's hard not to look at this movie without thinking of the evolution of 3D animation as a craft in the last 40 years. The way the medium improved over time, not just in terms of fidelity, but the heartfelt, boundary-pushing storytelling that made animated characters come across as more tangible, and exploring the worlds they inhabited in a surreal way. And all that led to this, a movie about emojis on a kid's cell phone. It's so impersonal. It's not like Toy Story where Andy and the toys have a clear relationship. In Emoji Land, you get scanned whenever the kid picks you for their text message. Like, why is this kid only texting in the emojis? He's like a little man slut. The whole plot being he wants to text a girl in his class, and that's it. That's it. He has no connection to any of these main central characters. They're just a button on his phone. It's so pointless. The world's not interesting at all. The main character, Gene, is supposed to be the meh emoji, but he's malfunctioning. So he goes on a quest with hand emoji and jailbreak, an elite emo hacker girl emoji with blue hair who can access the cloud and see all the Rule 34 of herself made over the years. It's a movie made specifically for loud drunk parents circa 2017 to take their iPad kids to so they could run around the theater and pick their ass while they shove a bunch of ads at their eyeballs. You got whole scenes explaining Candy Crush, Just Dance, and Spotify. It's as shameless and corporate as an animated movie could possibly be. I'm sure some belligerently wasted parent in the theater howled with laughter when James Corden hand emoji said, "Bye, Felicia."
Bye, Felicia.
I wouldn't know though, because the first time I saw Emoji Movie was at 2 a.m. on a hacked Amazon Fire Stick plugged into my friend's portable CRT. It's just about the viewing experience this movie deserves.
But hey, for as much of a soulless cash grab that the Emoji Movie was, there is one good thing about it, and that's that it is inadvertently responsible for causing Jordan Peele to make Get Out. Holmes and Watson was the much-anticipated reunion between John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, a duo that starred in a couple smash hit comedies in the mid-2000s. So when this movie released to atrocious reviews, it left some people scratching their head wondering how two guys who worked so well together before could fuck up a movie this bad. And trust me, no matter what your sense of humor is, this movie is bad. It's not funny at all. Not even a little bit. It's just boring and hard to watch.
Wait, I know. He's an onanist.
Yes.
What's an onanist? Let's see. He pours his own tea.
He likes to create his own sauce.
He is a saucier.
And the name of his restaurant is Crotch Kitchen.
On a daily basis, he creams his own eclair.
The plot is impossible to follow. The jokes fall flat on their face, and some of them were already dated by the time the movie came out. Compared to Talladega Nights and Step Brothers, everything about their delivery here just feels off, and the blame probably rests with writer-director Ethan Coen. Not to be confused with Ethan Coen, no. Ethan Coen is a writer who built a pretty decent resume in the 90s and 2000s and decided to branch out into directing with Get Hard in 2015. Holmes and Watson was his second attempt at directing, and possibly his last, because the movie just barely didn't break even, and since its release, Coen seems to have returned exclusively to writing. My theory is the man didn't know how to direct Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. I think he just got them together and assumed their chemistry would be enough to carry the movie, because the whole thing just feels like he dressed them up in Victorian era clothes and said, just do whatever you want. We'll edit it down to just the funny parts. And then surprise, none of it was funny.
You know what? I find to take the most attractive photographs, you need to purse your lips together like a duck-billed platypus.
Platypus face, chins up. Hey!
Hey! Hey, girl!
Cats is a hilarious movie. It is so funny for all the wrong reasons. I saw this in theaters when it came out after eating a couple very powerful weed gummies, and it is an experience I will remember for the rest of my life. It's unlike any other movie ever made. It really is.
Dinner and a show.
Released at the tail end of 2019, Cats was an act of pure hubris from director Tom Hooper, who was well known in Hollywood at this point for directing The King's Speech, Les Miserables, and The Danish Girl. Well, I guess Tommy Boy must have gotten pretty full of himself after all those award winners, because for his next project he proceeded to blow $100 million on a film adaptation of Cats the Musical. Behind the scenes, Hooper rushed the movie out the door so it could release in time for Christmas, and in the process treated the animators like complete shit. Anonymous sources later reported that Hooper knew nothing about animation, made them work 90-hour weeks for months, and was horrible, disrespectful, demeaning, and condescending toward everyone. One source said that Hooper talked to the animators like they were garbage, and even compared their time working on Cats to slavery. It's been a few years now since Cats released, and Tom Hooper basically hasn't been heard from since, so I think it's safe to assume those allegations were completely true, and he won't be making a comeback anytime soon. Anyway, at this point I'd like to play you a song from the movie, but YouTube would probably demonetize me if I did that, so instead I'm going to play you a public service announcement from the 80s.
An accident! An accident! An accident! The humans had an accident!
There was a child in the car.
A child! A child?
A child? Cats have 9 lives, children only 1. Help them live that life. Buckle them into a car seat. No one wants a child to become a memory.
Memory, all alone in the moon.
So, Absolute Proof is not a movie. For the first time in Razzie history, the Razzies gave Worst Picture to something that was not a movie. This is a 2-hour-long special that aired on One American News in February 2021, where Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, bought airtime to prove that the 2020 election was hacked by China, using statistics that were proven to be fake and interviewing experts that don't have any real credentials. The special was also uploaded on YouTube, but was quickly taken down for spreading false information. I was hoping it would be at least unintentionally funny, but it's just really boring to watch. It's mostly the MyPillow guy saying, "Wow," talking about voting data that was given to him by a fraudster. At one point, he brings on a guy who claims he invented email.
You know, from creating email and all these systems, I know the power of machines.
Right. Oh, by the way, yeah, he created emails, right?
I did. I created email as a
creator of email.
I don't know. I don't have anything to say about this one. It's not a movie. So this is Also not a movie. Diana the Musical is a Broadway show that was planned to open on March 31st, 2020. Obviously that didn't pan out, but in the summer of 2020, they were able to get the cast together to make a recording of the show, with heavy COVID restrictions and no audience, of course. Then, for some bizarre reason, they decided to release that recording on Netflix in October 2021, a whole month before the show reopened on Broadway. Obviously, this was the dumbest possible thing they could have done, because why would anyone who isn't a hardcore House Windsor stan pay over $100 for a Broadway ticket to this cringe fest when they could just watch the cringe fest for free at home? The show was a complete flop, performing to a half-full theater every night for a month until the producers put the show out of its misery and canceled it on December 19th. Even if it hadn't been dumped on Netflix before it opened, it still probably would have flopped because it's every bit as tone deaf as the title suggests. The lyrics sound like a 14-year-old girl saw Hamilton in Newsies a few times and was like, oh my gosh, I can do that too! Except it wasn't written by a 14-year-old girl, it was written by a Tony Award-winning playwright in his 50s. Here's just a sample of some of the lyrics this show throws at you.
Alright, I'm no intellect, but maybe there's a discotheque where the prince could hear some Prince and we'd all get funkadelic. Maybe you could mold me as you like while spinning on that minute. She's really wrong, right? I just got a ticket to the main event. It's the thriller, it's the thriller, but with Diana and Camilla.
Directed by eccentric auteur Andrew Dominik, Blonde is the most recent Worst Picture winner as of the time I made this video, and probably the most controversial winner since Showgirls. It's a nearly 3-hour-long NC-17 rated movie about the life of Marilyn Monroe that takes extreme liberties with her life story because it's actually based on a historical fiction novel by Joyce Carol Oates. The reviews in this thing were all over the place. When it premiered at the Venice Film Festival, it received a 14-minute long standing ovation, and early critic reviews were extremely positive. Then it released on Netflix a few weeks later, and the drama started. On the positive end, the movie got praise for its stunning cinematography and for Ana de Armas' performance as Monroe. On the negative end, the movie was criticized for being exploitative, sexist, and dehumanizing, and for brutally depicting Marilyn Monroe as a helpless girl relentlessly abused by the Hollywood system when her real-life story was much more complicated than that. And it certainly doesn't help that Andrew Dominik doubled down on it after the film's release, saying, "Criticism only hurts if you agree with it, and I didn't agree with any of it. She's dead. The movie doesn't make any difference to her one way or another. What they mean is that the film exploited their memory of her, the image of her, which is fair enough. It does. That's the whole point of the movie. That's the whole problem with Marilyn Monroe. Everybody feels like they know her and what's best for her." I don't know about you guys. I could speak on this movie more, but I don't want to. This is the last movie on this list, and I'm tapping out. And I don't want to see any of you in the comments saying, oh, Ava tapping out, Ava not giving her real opinion. You're being evasive. You can't do that. Thank God this is over. My eyeballs and my brain are absolutely fried right now, and I don't have a single thought left in my head. But let me go ahead and summarize my thoughts by sorting all these movies into 4 categories. These categories are boring bad, funny bad, not that bad, and crimes against humanity. And there we go. I am evasive. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you to all of you for watching, and thank you so much to my guests for contributing to this video. And hey, Razzie people, if you're watching, hi! Invite me to the show sometime, maybe? Honestly, I think you guys are a little cringy and you've made some very questionable decisions in the past, but, like, I don't care. In the meantime, I'm going to do literally anything else besides watching movies. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go look at some clouds. Ooh, and touch grass? Oh, I can't remember the last time I touched grass. Okay, I'm gonna go outside, look at clouds, and touch grass. Okay, bye guys.